So you've been given this problem and it says it says 2 times -3 plus 3 minus 4, all of that divided by -7. And you need to solve this problem for an integer, a single integer, say x, okay? So the first thing we need to do is we need to make sure that we are following order of operations, right? Because we've practiced using integers before, and we need to use that and order of operations to solve this problem. And if you remember order of operations, right, you might have heard of the phrase PEMDAS, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, right? You have parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, and subtract. And remember that you're always going from left to right. So not only are you starting with the letter that comes first, and you might have also heard that they're divided into 3 sections, right? You have parentheses and exponents come first, and those go from left to right. Multiplication come next, and you do those from left to right in any order. It can be division or multiplication. Those are interchangeable. And then add and subtract, same thing as multiplying and divide. So we're going to kind of read this like a sentence and try to solve that at the same time, okay? So the first thing we need to do is we need to try to get rid of any parentheses or exponents. I see no exponents here, so we're just going to worry about parentheses. So I'm going to rewrite this, and I'm going to highlight the piece that I'm using so that you can see what I'm doing too. The only parentheses that I see that is not currently solved or one single integer is this guy right here, okay? So we have that 3 minus 4, and that's going to be what we're going to have to solve. So we'll stick with that. We're going to say 2 still times -3 plus, and then we need to change that 3 minus 4, right? If we take 3 and we take away 4, if you think about it like a bank account, right? You've got $3 in there and you spend 4 of them. Well, you're going to have $1 that you don't have already in your bank account. You're going to have -$1 in that bank account. You can also think of it like dots, right? If you had 3 positive dots and you take away 4 of those, you're going to have now 1 negative dot, 1 opposite dot, okay? So you're going to have that. And then the rest of that will stay as -7. Okay. So we're done there. So that's still all equal to x. Okay. So we got 2 times -3 plus -1 gives us negative over -7, still gives us x. So the next thing, there aren't any more parentheses or exponents that I have to take care of. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to have to multiply and divide. Okay. And it's going to get a little tricky because we can't necessarily divide just yet, and I'll show you why. Okay, but the first thing I see is I'm going to read this from left to right. On the top, I'm going to take my numerator first, and I see 2 times -3. Okay, we've got 2 times -3 here. Okay, and so we've got a 2, or well, really, you can think of it. It's probably easier this way: -3 twice, right? You've got 2 of those. You're adding them together, so you got -3 and then another -3. That's just going to give us -6. Okay, and you can also think of it: a negative times a positive gives us a negative. 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, and then the rest of that would just turn into plus. We still have our -1. And then that's still all over our -7, okay? And that's equal to x. Now you've also got this problem here because there is a division symbol, but I'm not going to break up this -6 and divide it by -7 and then do this -1. It's not going to work, okay? So you can kind of think about this as being in a double parentheses, okay? The numerator should be simplified and the denominator should be simplified way before you guys will ever divide them, okay? So make sure they're simplified first. There are some cases where there's factors in the top, but we're not going to go into that just today. Okay, so let's finish that top piece. And I've got a -6 plus a -1. Okay, so you've got -$6 in your bank account, and you're going to spend another dollar that you don't have. You're adding in one more negative. So that's going to give us a -7 on the top. And then we've still got that divided by -7 on the bottom. And that's still equal to x. Okay. Now, if you remember from fractions, when you see the same number on the top of the fraction in the numerator, and then when you see the same bottom number as well, so right now we've got a -7 in the numerator and the denominator, okay, I'm going to be able to kind of cancel these out, frankly, but you know that if you see this number in the denominator and you're dividing it in there, okay, that's actually just the same thing as a 1, okay? Now we can think of this a little bit differently because we're taking this -7 and we're going to divide it by -7. And if you've done anything with multiplying and dividing integers, right, you know that when you divide a negative by a negative, you get a positive. Okay, so this answer should be positive. And because we're dividing 7 by 7, we're also going to get 1. Okay, so right now I'm seeing the same number in the numerator and the denominator, so we just know that that's equal to 1. Okay. Another problem you might run into, let's see, let's try another one. Let's say we did 3 times -4 plus, let's say 5 minus 7, right? And then we're going to multiply all of that by -2, okay? My suggestion is when you're trying to solve this problem, okay, you should, again, use PEMDAS, get everything in the parentheses done first, work your way in, and then, start at the inside and then work your way out, okay? So do everything that's in the middle first, start simplifying and making it smaller, and then work your way out. So the first thing I see here is that we have this 5 minus 7 here. This is the smallest piece. So I'm actually going to solve that first. I'm going to rewrite all of this. We have -2, and then we have 3 times -4 plus, and then we have this plus, and then we have this 5 and 7 that we're subtracting, and all of that's equal to y. Now 5 minus 7, again, we have $5 in our bank account. We spend 7, so I'm missing $2, so that's a -2. Okay, the next thing I see is this big parentheses because all of this is finished. So I'm going to just kind of take this and multiply it through. Okay, so I've still got -2. And then I've got my big parentheses here, and that's all going to be equal to y. And in the first case, I've got 3 times -4. Right? When we've got 3 times -4, a positive times a negative gives us a negative, and then 3 times 4 gives us 12, plus our -2, right? Plus -2. And if we solve that again, if we simplify that even further, we have -2 times 12 plus 2 more negatives, right? So that's going to get us a -14. Okay, and all of that is equal to y. All of that's equal to y. And then we have -2 times -14. We have a negative times a negative. That'll give us a positive. And then 2 times 14 gives us 28. So y, in this case, gives us a positive 28.